After nearly 20 cities in this series, we are finally heading to Germany, in particular the beautiful Bavarian capital. Here are the stadiums and arenas of Munich. Grünwaldstadion. Having opened in 1911, this is one of the oldest football stadiums in the country, although it was mostly destroyed in World War II. So perhaps it's more accurate to say that it's one of the oldest football grounds in the country. Not only does it have a storied history, but it has a few interesting features as well. Firstly, there still exists a manual scoreboard that sits atop the western terrace, which is not something you see much of nowadays. The same goes for the main grandstand's wooden benches. BMW Park. In case you were wondering, the M in BMW doesn't stand for Munich, but the B does stand for Bayerischer, meaning Bavarian, and the company is headquartered in Munich. But enough about sports cars, we're here for sports venues. In particular, this unique aluminium-clad arena that was built for the 1972 Olympics. The circular nature of the exterior is carried over to the seating layout, which, when combined with the lack of retractable seating, doesn't really make for an ideal basketball venue. And as you'll see later on, Bayern Munich are moving to a new venue soon. Olympiastadion. As you probably could have guessed, this was the main stadium used at the aforementioned 1972 Olympics. The design was way ahead of its time when it was built. Specifically the tent-like roof, which is made from a transparent plastic that is basically an alternative to glass. This lets a heap of sunlight into the seating bowl, while stopping the rain of course. It also looks fantastic, especially like the way the roof tapers all the way down to the ground more or less. The rest of the stadium is relatively straightforward. It's a single-tiered sunken bowl. The roof really does do the heavy lifting. The Olympia Hall next door has the same thing going on. It's just even more tent-like given it's enclosed. Come to think of it, it's not just the roof that it shares with its football counterpart, the seating layout is more or less the same. A single-tiered bowl that dips at the ends. It's the largest indoor sports venue in the city, yet it doesn't currently have a permanent tenant. Various teams from various sports just play the occasional game here, I suppose when a larger than average capacity is expected. Städtisches Stadion an der Dantestrasse. That name is German as This historic stadium is home to not one but two American football teams. I don't know whether or not that has anything to do with the fact that it was seized by the US military after World War II and was subsequently used for American football and baseball during occupation. Just last year, the stadium was listed as a protected monument. And part of the reason it was deemed worthy of protection is this unique grandstand here. Often when a stand is an odd shape like this, it's due to room constraints, but here, it appears to have just been an aesthetic choice. I like it. Allianz Arena, also known as the Schlauchboot, which is German for dinghy. Due to its unique exterior made up of inflated plastic panels that can be illuminated in all the colors of des Regenbogens, rainbow. The interior doesn't lack in color either, because shortly after 1860 Munich moved out 5 or 6 years ago, it was transformed into a teenage Bayern Munich fan's bedroom. Nah, it looks pretty good to be fair. Oh, and I should note that before Bayern Munich's new home was built, they did actually consider reconstructing the Olympiastadion, but the plan was rejected by the original architect himself. I'm glad he did, because not only did we get to keep that magnificent old stadium, but we also gained this groundbreaking new ground. Olympia Ice Sports Centrum. Speaking of BMW, this place is situated just across the road from the BMW Museum, which I'm sure is a pretty cool place. I'll be honest, I keep mentioning BMW because I'm hoping they'll send me, not a motorbike, I know that's not happening, but I hope they can at least send me a BMW badge so I can superglue it to my bicycle. Is that too much to ask? Anyway, this too was used during the 72 Olympics for boxing. However, they started building it as an ice hockey arena before the city was even awarded the event. So it wasn't really up to spec for Olympic boxing, and they actually had to renovate it significantly prior to the event. Interesting how the capacity is mostly coming from standing room. You don't often see that in arenas, at least where I'm from. Alpenbauer Sport Park. We've already seen 2 American football teams, and this place is home to yet another, the Munich Ravens, who are presumably the biggest of Munich's American football teams, given that they compete in the European League of Football rather than the domestic German league. Alpenbauer Sport Park has a lot of charm for a relatively modern stadium. Firstly, they've got this clubhouse at the southern end, which is where the players enter the field from. And secondly, the fans in the western stand are sheltered by a very distinctive, partially wooden roof. That's actually kinda cool. Unlike most former Olympic cities, Munich doesn't have a proper velodrome, at least not anymore. It was demolished in 2015 to make way for a new multi-purpose arena, which is still under construction. Once completed early next year, it'll be the home of basketball and ice hockey in the city. And those were the Stadiums und Arenas of München, Deutschland. Consider subscribing if you're new, and as always, danke for watching, have a good eins.